3 years ago, we brought our very first production, which was The Most Unknown, to AFO along with Human Nature, our two first films. And I have to say the enthusiasm with which they were received here at AFO was such a shot in the arm because, that was very new in our company. That sort of feedback is just so critical for us in what we're doing. It really just can't be replaced. It's both an inspiration, but it's also good feedback to understand how our films are landing and connecting with audiences, from the really smart questions we get in the Q&As here to just having a coffee with some of the audience. And that helps us understand how it's connecting, and also connecting with audiences that are outside of the U.S., which is really important to us. We really think of ourselves as a global company. We really want to reach large audiences around the world. So it's nice to get a little bit out of the North American frame. I mean, you do need to have that business side, and those types of festivals fill that role. But these festivals like AFO, and I would count things like even CPH docs to a degree, who have also a similar kind of artistic approach to nonfiction, that really plays a major role in our strategic thinking around making the films that we make. Yeah, tricking a foundation to fund a film company is one of the biggest magic tricks I've ever done. I still don't understand it, frankly. But my backstory is I was a very bad scientist, a very bad neuroscientist. I studied neuroscience early in my career, and I was a slightly better storyteller, so I went that route. And throughout my career, I've always worked sort of at the intersection of explaining science, specifically big ideas in science, to somewhat broader audiences, whether that was in journalism early in my career or moving into film and documentary, video shorts, working with Vice and other companies. I was working for this wonderful private foundation in the US based in New York called Simon's Foundation, and they fund primarily scientific research. And as part of that effort, they also, a portion of their funding goes towards creative science outreach. And working with them on that for their goals of bringing science ideas to wide audiences, we kind of deduced that there's really no better way, in my eyes, to reach maybe non-science fans than through the emotional resonance of visual storytelling, specifically corresponding with the rise of consumption of documentary across the world. We're now building our headquarters in New York. We're a full-fledged documentary studio and company. We're now, I think, have something like 25 feature-length titles in various stages, whether there's like 10 of them out now, another 10 that are in production, and another 15 or so in early development. And our model is increasingly working on developing ideas. So that is to say, like working directly with artists to get a rough idea into development. And we'll finance that entirely. We have that funding to do that. And then from there, we either bring that to other partners to get it into production, we can put it into production ourselves, or we can, find other ways to collaborate to put the idea into full production. We do like working directly with a small film team, and the way we find our projects varies. For instance, we do an annual retreat where we bring 15 artists and 15 scientists together for a 3-day intensive lab and co-creation. And many of our projects have come out of that, born out of this writing retreat that we do. We have a open call grant program that's administered by the Sundance Institute. And through that program, we give about approximately $400,000 US in just soft grants. This is just no strings attached funding. Those grants range from about $20,000 to $50,000 US per project. And even though if you receive a grant from that, it doesn't make it a Sandbox Films production per se, many of those projects we're able to track and many of them happen to be like emerging artists that maybe it's their first or second feature. That like there are so many ideas and so many people out there that we just don't know, and so we just try to be very proactive in coming to places like this that are bringing together interesting, talented communities, and just try to meet people and invite ideas. Primarily, our main goal is to help support the vision of the director and the collaborators. So we don't want to imprint our vision of the project. What we would like to do ideally in every collaboration we do is to understand, hopefully, an ambitious vision of an artist and a team of artists and help facilitate that. And so depending on the project, that can mean different things. So if it's maybe a less experienced filmmaker, we might put together with a more seasoned producer. They might need help with the storytelling, and sometimes Jess and I, help with like the script writing of the narration, or we'll bring in other collaborators that can help. At the end of the day, we don't want to collaborate just to collaborate. So if we don't want to get in the way of the vision, we would like to support the vision, ideally. I think always we're pushing teams to center the human aspects of a story. Our belief is that science is very much a human endeavor. It's messy, it's kind of weird, and it's beautiful, and it's spontaneous. And we love to capture that in a very human-centered way. And for us, it's not about the topic. And if you create a journey, the audience will be inspired by the science along the way, but the journey is what matters, because that's the human part of it. And ultimately, for us, the connective tissue between science and society is really emotion. If you can have an emotional resonance with your audience and they connect to the story, they're much more inclined to be maybe inspired or affected by the scientific content. Throughout my career of working as a science journalist and in that field, I've been really lucky and fortunate to come across a really rich network of scientists, both established and up and coming. And also through our relationship with the Simons Foundation, who funds our company, we're able to also tap into their Rolodex and their network of really outstanding scientists. And one thing that's unique about Sandbox Films, maybe compared to other production companies, no matter how we collaborate on a project, anything that is financed or co-financed by Sandbox Films or produced by us, one unique requirement, is that we withhold rights to send the final or almost final version of the film, and we get it peer-reviewed by colleagues, scientific experts. And at first, many filmmakers understandably bristle at this. This seems like an encroachment on their creative integrity and creative control. But it's really wonderful that actually it's as it's evolved, this process of fact-checking and peer review of the films has turned into a really lovely creative process. So far, all of our projects, the director have always said, "Oh, that was actually really that was a fruitful process getting that reviewed." And we've occasionally caught some things, but the important thing is that we want to feel good that it's easy to misspeak, it's easy to get a fact wrong. And for us, yes, the story is center, the human experience is center in all of our projects, but we never want to be putting out misleading or false science. That would be, of course, counterintuitive or counter to our entire mission, where we bring scientists and filmmakers together and we kind of live in a house for like 3 days, and we don't sleep, and we just really have this exchange. And I think it's really amazing to have scientists involved in the development and the early process, that free exchange of ideas, whether it's just finding maybe an interesting character, working on something that we didn't realize that is relevant, even just the creative ideas that scientists can bring early in the writing process, for us, has been a really rich part of all of our productions. I'm going to try to answer that with a non-answer. That is to say, I feel like there are a lot of science documentaries, or science stories about some of the bigger, sexier ideas in science, and I would love to work on more projects that show some of the more challenging topics that are maybe less sexy or less cinematic, and to try to tell those stories because they contribute so much. Basic research and early work contributes so much to what we then appreciate as science in every day.